I think it just is very affirming to why voting matters.
I think that is so well said because over and over again, I think people think, oh, why bother? But, right now at this moment, there's a couple percentage points difference in with you and Celeste Malloy, but the votes only reflect things up until Election Day. What were you feeling on Election Day? I mean, we saw that a lot of people had held their ballot to the end, right? I mean, which makes sense in a special election like this, and we suspect that yesterday itself had a pretty good turnout, but you were out and about. Did you feel like you saw a pretty good turnout? What were you hearing?
We were out and about. We had honkin' waves across the district, and we were still calling people up until literally half an hour before the polls closed, telling people, listen, you have 30 minutes. Drive to your polling place now. It's been very much a voter outreach based campaign, and this is something that I think is unique to a special election, or maybe just emphasized in a special election, is the need to get out so quickly, meet with people, hear about the issues, and this is why I'm convinced that the issues that matter to people across this district are actually a lot more similar than sometimes we think. I'm hearing people in the southern part of the district talk about immigration and the impacts on small businesses and tourism and inflation, cost of everyday expenses for families, growth, water, housing, public lands, and really wanting to see kind of common sense solutions to those issues. I'm hearing the very same things up here in the northern part of the district. So that uniformity of issues, I think, is probably something that might be surprising to people who haven't had what I think is a great privilege of running for office.
Well,
and this is go ahead.
Well, one of the things that probably complicated the run is that this district is massive in size. You've got how many counties? 12 or 13 different counties. 13. And you have 13 counties, and you've got places as varied as Garfield County, Washington County, and Davis County, all at once. So how did you campaign with a district that is so large? I mean, it's one thing to, have it. You've served in the House of Representatives before in the state, and your district was 35 or 40,000 people, all pretty close together, in Davis County. This was a whole new ball game. How did you make it happen?
This was a whole new ball game, and our focus was always on getting out and meeting with people in ways where you could have lengthy conversations with folks. So those 13 counties turned into visits where we were in every county in 29 towns and cities, and some cities we had numerous events in those. I think we had over 40, nearly 50 different campaign events. We had this amazing team of volunteers who were so useful to helping us make calls and in-person contacts at doors. And I think we had 50,000 people that we called and texted to get out the vote. Over 30,000 in-person contacts at doors and events. I mean, we were in those communities. And for many people, this was a unique opportunity to have long version conversations where it was really them sharing their stories. And it was a little bit of a build off of a model that I used when I was in the Utah House. As you mentioned, for 10 years, every Saturday, we would open up our house. People would come in the living room, and we'd sit there. We'd talk about issues. People would share their concerns, sometimes their complaints, as you know, and suggestions about, how things could be made better and how they'd like to see the legislature and me as their representative vote on things. Now, I knew that in a race like this, I wasn't going to be able to have people in my home, the whole district. That was not feasible because it's a very large district. So I knew I needed to be in people's homes, in the libraries, walking through the farms with people. And that was something that was a great opportunity for me to hear from them in lengthy conversations and again, just a very, very big privilege to run.
So if you're elected, what ended up at the top of your to-do list when you arrive in Washington? Sort of what have you focused on for your 1 and 2 things to do when you arrive?
I think the probably top of mind for the people in this district really is inflation, cost of everything, and trying to rein that in as an elected official would be top of mind for me. That would be the biggest focus, whether that's in committee where I'm serving or just in general, working with my colleagues to advance some of the Republican agendas and making sure that we're doing right by the American people and by the people in District 2 here. And the unique thing is that reality is I'm the only person in this race who's ever balanced a budget. And Derek knows this as a former member of the House, is we do that every year. It's required in Utah, but it doesn't mean it's easy. And those conversations that are with agencies and state entities and trying to figure out how you can be more efficient and effective in providing the necessary services to the people of your state, those are conversations that you learn those skills, you learn how to do that, how to bring people together, how to collaborate, and really focus on solutions rather than sound bites and pointing fingers at each other. I think that would be top of mind for me.
Fantastic, Will. And in full disclosure, I spent 2 years in the House of Representatives sitting next to Becky. And so hopefully she still likes me after that. She probably had more than her fair share of Derek during those years. But we wish you all the best, and I wish that for your sake that whatever the answer is, that it comes quickly. I have these flashbacks, Becky, of when I was the chairman of the Utah Republican Party, our big congressional race. It was CD4 in 2020. It took just over 2 weeks before we had a final answer. So for your sake, I hope that is not the case, and that you're able to get some sleep before then. So best of luck to you.
Let me just give a tiny shout out to all of our county election officials. You're mentioning the possibility this goes on for days, maybe a week or two. This is the people who are in the trenches here, are our county election officials and lieutenant governor's office. And I think as Utahns, we should just be incredibly proud of the work they do.
I agree.
They make us proud and safe and secure elections. We do it right here in Utah. So no matter how long it takes, we can be confident in the process.
We can.
And I'm grateful for them.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Becky Edwards, candidate for CD2. Thank you for joining us on Inside Sources.
Thank you.
All right. Coming up, we have KSL's own reporter, Lindsay Eretz, in studio to talk about this race and everything she's seen here in the last 24 hours. Stay with us.
First came the vote.
I'm not a big fan of the mail-in votes. I like the in-person ID votes.
We had a candidate we wanted to vote for, and so we voted.
And then the waiting. And more waiting. When the last ballots are finally counted, we'll have a new 2nd District representative. When the votes come in, we'll put them on. Listen to KSL all this week for updates. We have you covered.
I think we had some pretty good choices, actually, so I won't complain.
On KSL News Radio.
Remember that first paycheck when you started working all those years ago? You looked at the net amount and thought, whoa, what happened here? Ah, the joy of taxes. It could be this way with your retirement accounts. You know how much you've saved, but if you haven't planned for Uncle Sam, you could come up short in retirement. With tax laws constantly changing, there's a lot you need to know to make sure you're not paying more than your fair share. Mike Stevens and the team at Capital Wealth Advisors can help you create a plan that shows you how taxes could affect you now and in the future. Set up your tax strategy session with Mike Stevens and Capital Wealth Advisors now. Call 801-210-5500. That's 801-210-5500. Make sure you know how these changes could affect you so you can avoid some of those whoa moments in retirement. Call 801-210-5500. Advisory services offered through Capital Wealth Advisors, LLC, a state of Utah registered investment advisor. Firm may not give tax advice.
Good afternoon, everybody. Amanda Dixon broadcasting live today from the beautiful new Bedrock Quartz store. We are here in Murray at 1276 Vine Street, and the CEO, Alan Jorgensen. This is your family's company, Alan, right?
It is, yeah. We're really excited to be open here in Murray, to be on the other side of the valley from our main location in West Jordan. And just we've loved how it turned out, and super excited to have customers come and see it and to be closer to them.
Yeah, it's just beautiful. When you walk in, you see all these different choices of granite and marble and quartz. How do people decide between all of this?
Well, it's wonderful to bring together the different colors of the paint, the cabinets, and there's so many colors which can help them really find something that's going to fit wonderfully for their home.
Yeah, and this is not just kitchens. You do bathrooms. Well, you do anything that you put marble
That's right.
in.
Bathrooms, showers, fireplace surrounds. There's many options of where to put these beautiful materials.
Wow. How long has your family been in this business, may I ask?
Been since 1976 with my father, and then he worked with his father before, so we've really been in the countertop trade since the 50s.
Oh my gosh, and I saw you in Spanish Fork a few weeks ago at the grand opening there, and here we are in Murray. I just want to encourage everyone to come and see us. We've got some special promotions to tell you about too, and we'll do that later, but it's the new store of Bedrock Quartz, 1276 Vine Street in Murray.
In this market, you'll find Fisher Investments is different than other money managers.
Different how? Aren't we all just looking for the hottest stocks?
Nope. We use diversified strategies to position our clients' portfolios for their long-term goals.
You don't just provide cookie-cutter portfolios?
No. We tailor our clients' portfolios to their goals and needs.
But you still sell investments that generate high commissions for you, right?
No, we don't sell commission-based products. We're a fiduciary, the highest standard of care for a financial advisor. It means we're obligated to act in our client's best interest.
So when do you make more money? Only when your clients make more money?
Yep, we have one transparent management fee structured so we do better when our clients do better.
Sounds like you really look out for your clients.
We do, because our priority is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement. That might be why most of our clients come from other money managers. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you switch to us. Fisher Investments. Clearly different money management.
Investments in securities involve the risk of loss.
Ron had a tax problem he just couldn't handle on his own.
I owed the IRS taxes for over 5 years, but I didn't have any money to pay the taxes.
Those years cost him dearly.
Most of it was fees and interest. It was horrible.
Ron finally called in the pros.
I called Optima Tax Relief, and boy, am I happy I did.
The leading tax resolution firm, Optima, is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. They've resolved over $1 billion for their clients. Ron was overjoyed.
They settled my account with IRS. I was ecstatic. They are a lifesaver. They are. I am so happy.
Take Ron's advice and call Optima now for a free consultation.
Yeah, don't do like I did and wait. Call Optima Tax Relief. Do it now. You'll be ecstatic like me.
Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
The Utah RV Super Show at Mountain America Expo Center in Sandy, September 14th through 17th. Get information and discount passes at UtahRVSupershow.com.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, some residents of an apartment complex in Layton, where police shot a man this morning, say criminal incidents happen there all the time. Second, environmental groups are suing the state of Utah, arguing it's not doing enough to protect the Great Salt Lake. Third, a judge in California has blocked a school district's policy on telling parents when students identify as transgender. Opponents argue the policy resulted in harm to one student. Right now, 82 degrees in Salt Lake City, and back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Boyd Matheson divides rage from reason on Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. Maura, Carabello, and Derek Brown are filling in today for Boyd Matheson. Well, he is out on this sunshiny day, and we are continuing with the top news of the day, which has been the 2nd Congressional District race that happened yesterday. So no more voting. Votes are in. And now we have been talking off the air and on the air about what's happening. So what we know right now, as of 6 a.m. this morning, is that Celeste Malloy has 38%, Becky Edwards has 36%, and Bruce Huff has 26%. So that difference between Celeste Malloy and Becky Edwards is about 1,400 votes.
Yep.
I'm going to bring into the conversation the person who has been following this minute by minute, both with her feet on the ground and looking at every news source and talking to every clerk. That's Lindsay Ernst from KSL News Radio. If you're not following her on X, I'm getting used to. If you're not following
it X-Twitter now. X-Twitter.
Make
Is
sure
that one
you're
word? X-Twitter.
X-Twitter. Make sure you're following her. And Lindsay, what can you tell us right now? We know we know reported already there's a 1,400 vote gap. So that leaves the big question about what's going to come in.
Yeah.
What do you know about what's still coming in?
Okay, so we know that Salt Lake County still has outstanding ballots. County Clerk Lanny Chapman told me yesterday they still have about 4,000 to process that
came
means
in
yesterday.
They have it in their office and they haven't processed it yet.
Right.
And then there's also those of us who, let's say, postmarked and mailed it at 5 p.m.
Yes.
And the clerk didn't have that yet.
And those numbers we don't know. We can estimate those, but we don't know exactly how many ballots still remain to come in. But best guesses is that a couple thousand perhaps are coming in the mail that were postmarked yesterday. So,
and if you're wondering why yesterday, usually it's the day before Election Day, right? I mean, the problem is the day before Election Day was Labor Day, so it was a federal holiday.
Right.
So the legislature for this one race basically changed it.
Extended the
day
deadline.
up.
Yeah.
So that makes things even a little more complicated.
And this is maybe a good case study for why we should keep the postmark day the day before Election Day, because now we get ballots on Election Day when they're put in the mail the day before instead of having to wait a couple days.
Right.
But so we're still waiting on a big chunk of ballots out of Salt Lake County. We're still waiting on a really large chunk out of Washington County down in southern Utah. The clerk last night told me over 12,000 ballots still to be counted there.
They have them in. They just are still processing them.
So they're still processing them. So that is still a big chunk of ballots. And what we know is that Becky Edwards is trending well in Salt Lake County. She's taking about 60% of the Salt Lake County votes, but Celeste Malloy is trending really well in Washington County and the other rural counties, and not just really well, like crushing it.
Yeah,
right?
she is winning more than maybe she even expected to win.
Yeah.
And so the reason we start dialing into this is, Derek, we're looking at a race that's less than 2 percentage points right now. It's 1,400 votes. So then those of us, who like to take the back of the napkin here, we start looking at candidates who are not only winning, but winning by a higher percentage than we would have expected. And then the other really interesting number that I don't know people think about is, did you lose well? I mean, when I was doing what we call the 50+1 number, which is I say to my candidate, you only need 50% plus one vote. So what's that vote, right? When we're doing that, we looked at some counties and said, wow, we're never going to win that county. But if we could lose and get 42%, we would close the gap, right?
Yeah.
We would close the gap. So Celeste is also losing well.
Particularly in Davis County, right?
Yes.
Don't you think? I mean, I would have expected her to lose at a larger margin.
Yes.
In Davis.
So
and
let's
she
give
didn't.
those numbers. So Edwards in Davis County had 49%. This is as of yesterday. 49% for Becky Edwards, 30% for Celeste Malloy, and 21% for Bruce Huff. That was the breakdown for those of you in Davis County.
And so give us your best guess. Can we put you on the spot here, Lindsay? I mean, I don't think anyone out there knows as much about this now at the 30,000-foot level and the granular level than you do. This is the question we're all asking: are there enough votes out there for Becky Edwards to make up the difference? Because as she picks up votes, Celeste will also pick up votes.
Right.
So it's just a margins game.
Yeah, it is a margins game at this point. It would seem as though, based on the numbers that I've looked at and that we've all discussed, that it will be a heavy lift for Becky Edwards to overcome this margin. She's going to have to perform really well, if not outperform her current pace of 60% in Salt Lake County in order to make up some of that margin that Celeste will also get in these rural and southern Utah counties with the way she's tracking. So
now part of your thinking there is that Becky Edwards did really well in Davis County, Salt Lake County, Tooele County, what we would call the more urban counties.
Mm-hmm.
But we're thinking that what we've been told by the clerks in Davis and Tooele is they have a lot of theirs in already. So we're not waiting on as many potential vote counts in those two counties as we're waiting on in Salt Lake County.
Yeah.
And conversely, Washington County has a ton still waiting to be counted. And if we looked at how well people did yesterday in Washington County, we see that Celeste Malloy got 44% of all the Washington County votes. Bruce Huff got 34%. He was in the number 2 spot. And Becky Edwards got 22% in Washington County.
Yeah, so you need somewhere where Becky can make up those gains, and it's only going to be Salt Lake County, really, maybe a few in Davis County, but it's going to be the majority have to come from Salt Lake County for her to make up that gain. And I just don't know if there's enough outstanding ballots and enough percentage for her to do that.
So talk to us about when the next time it is we know anything.
Okay, so at 5 o'clock today, we'll get some more numbers, but we know that Salt Lake County and Washington County won't be in those because what they're doing, those larger counties, because of that postmark date, all the ballots that were mailed yesterday take a day to get into the office, right? Your mail doesn't just show up same day, usually. Mm-hmm. So they've got a swath of unknown ballots that are still coming in the mail today. They'll get those in the mail, and then they have to process all of those and tabulate all of those. So that's why the Salt Lake County clerk in particular has said, I won't have more results until Thursday because she needs a day. They need a day physically for that process to play out. So the dump today, I predict will likely see Celeste Malloy's lead bump up a little bit. And then when we get those Salt Lake and Washington County numbers, we'll know more where it settles.
So from your spot, there's much been made about the urban versus rural divide here in terms of counts. Did it play out so far with the results that you've analyzed? Is there an urban-rural?
It really appears that way. It really does. And you go back to the redistricting conversation that we all had back when the legislature was working on changing the lines, right? It was always the pizza pie argument, right, of should there be some urban and rural in every district? And that was the argument from the legislature is, yes, that should be the way one person has to represent all the interests of the state, right?
But that question also assumes that Washington County
is rural.
Well, right? And I'm sure there's a lot of
mean-
people there that might say, wait,
No.
I'm rural? How can I be rural?
I totally agree that Washington County is not rural. I totally agree with that. Neither is probably Cedar City. It's probably like
Or
suburban.
Tooele.
Yeah.
Or
Right.
Right.
But there are several rural counties along, off the
Between here
Wasatch
and
Front.
there.
Between here and there.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so if you look at the map on the New York Times, you can see the yellow counties for Becky Edwards of Davis and Salt Lake, and then the entire rest of the district, the counties were won or tied by Celeste. And so Celeste just really performed well off the Wasatch Front, and Becky performed really well along the Wasatch Front.
Lindsay Ahrens, KSL News Radio. She is the person to follow for minute-by-minute updates on this special elections, Congressional District Number 2.
You guys are too kind. Thank
Too
you.
close to call still.
It is. It is.
So interesting.
We'll have to wait to see, but it'll be really fun to watch.
All right. Thanks for keeping us up.
You bet.
Coming up next, Republican senators are weighing in about their leaders. Stay tuned to find out more.
It's 1:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top local story this hour. A lawsuit filed today against the state of Utah by conservation and community groups over the Great Salt Lake. The suit says the state has not ensured the lake has enough water to prevent an ecological collapse. Utah Rivers Council is one of those groups. It says upstream diversions have deprived the lake of water and caused a significant drop in its level. The suit seeks a court order directing Utah's leaders to implement meaningful solutions that provide more water to the lake. Congressional elections can take the spotlight, but county, city, or municipal elections can be just as important. Salt Lake County Clerk Lenny Chapman says that those officials play a more direct role in community action than we might understand.
Because they really do impact your day-to-day life. These are the people that are making decisions about what priorities we should put towards tax dollars, fixing roads, improving parks, building trails. Those are the things that are so important.
Chapman says you can learn more about local level candidates at your city or county website. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The U.S. Senate back in Washington this week. They're already negotiating on how to pass a bill that would fund the government. One area of spending in dispute is border security. Democratic Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois says we need a bipartisan solution.
30 years since we've discussed immigration, and we're going to blame this president for the problems. For God's sake, how about ourselves? Let's blame ourselves for the problem.
The government spending authority expires at midnight on September 30th. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average Down on the day, 186 points right now. The NASDAQ, proportionately even further down, 173 points right now. And our KSL weather was warming up. We'll see 90 by the weekend. That's next. KSL News Time, 1:32.
What do you need to hear in the morning to feel ready for the day?
Important news that happened overnight. The traffic you'll hit on the roads.
You'll be ready for your day with us.
Join Utah's Morning News 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Amanda Dixon broadcasting live this afternoon from the brand new location of Bedrock Quartz. We are here in Murray at 1276 Vine Street, and I am with one of the owners, Alan Jorgensen. This is your family business. I love telling people it's a family business, Alan, because we want to give our support to a Utah family. But I want people to know if they're thinking about remodeling. We know that can be a stressful experience, but you make it so easy when you walk in. This is number one. You start here, you pick this, then you go to number 2. Tell them what the process is like.
Yeah, that's right. We'd like to try to simplify it to try to help this journey be smoother, because we know that remodeling can be tough. And so we come in and it's this process of selecting the color, choosing a sink, choosing a faucet, choosing a backsplash, the tile that can go with your kitchen. And we're just trying to help make that as fluid and seamless as possible. And we have great people in the stores that can help answer questions, resolve concerns, and help navigate the process.
It's a great time, too, because I think some people are hesitant to sell their home because of interest rates in buying the next home. So why not fix that bathroom you hate or that kitchen you hate and turn it into something you love?
That's right. Rather than deal with it for several more years, it's time to beautify it, and you'll just love the space. Create these beautiful spaces in your kitchen and bathrooms can make a huge difference.
I can picture it now. Where are you located? Now, we're here in Murray, but you have several locations.
That's right. We have our northernmost is Layton, and then our headquarters is West Jordan, and now in Murray, Spanish Fork, Pleasant Grove, and St. George.
And St. George. Come and see us today at the grand opening in Murray, 1276 Vine Street. It's Bedrock Quartz.
Hi, this is Doug Wright, and there are good things in the air. You can feel it, you can see it, you can experience it. Football, the kids are back in school. It's beginning to cool off a little bit. Fall is in the air, and a great place to go this fall for the best meal you've ever had. It's Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Now let's talk about going up to the mountains where the leaves are just beginning to turn. It's going to be gorgeous. And at Hotel Park City, there's a Ruth's Chris Steakhouse waiting for you. So many things are going on in the heart of downtown Salt Lake City, and there's a Ruth's Chris Steakhouse downtown for you as well at 275 South West Temple. That steak that you've been longing for, cooked to perfection, the perfect temperature, the side dishes, the desserts. They're at both locations of Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. So call and make your reservations now. When Dee and I ate there the other night, it was so delicious, so good. That first bite, you're going to love it at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse.
Sometimes we're faced with a crossroads in life and we don't know which path to take. Maybe you're thinking about a career change or feeling like your relationship needs some TLC. Whatever it is, BetterHelp Therapy can help you map out your future and trust yourself to find the way forward. BetterHelp is entirely online therapy that offers video, phone, or even live chat online therapy sessions. You have a busy life, so BetterHelp is designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist in under 48 hours, and you can also switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Give BetterHelp Online Therapy a try and get on your way to being your best self. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/KSL. That's betterhelp.com/KSL.
Found your dream house, but not your dream rate? Make your purchase with a home loan from Cypress Credit Union. Refinance within 12 months if rates drop, and Cypress Credit Union will take care of the refinancing fees.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Granite Credit Union's new Dividend Plus checking account. Here's Ricky Meese.
No delays on any of your Valley freeways, but it looks like we just had a crash being cleared southbound I-15 at Warm Springs Road, 2300 North. It was out of traffic on the shoulder. Really didn't cause any issues. BYU's finest student dance ensembles present World of Dance, featuring the Ballroom Dance Company. Contemporary Dance Theater, International Folk Dance, Living Legends, Theater Ballet, and Young Ambassadors. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, warm and dry through the rest of the week. Today's high 86, up to 89 or 90 by Friday and Saturday. And right now, 82 degrees, sunny skies at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. Your all-day companion for news.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Filling in for Boyd Matheson, this is Derek Brown here with my friend Maura Carabello, and we are covering, well, everything from local to national at the moment. We've spent a lot of time talking about the special election that took place yesterday. And we've had one of the candidates, Becky Edwards, join us. We'll have one of the other candidates, Celeste Malloy, at the top of the hour. We look forward to that and kind of hearing where they are on things. But for a moment, we want to talk about what's going on nationally. There was kind of an interesting moment that, Mara, it's kind of almost difficult to talk about. No one really wants to mention it, but
Right.
it's a sensitive topic. It involves Senator Mitch McConnell. Now, just as background, he is the leader in the Senate right now, the Senate Minority Leader.
The longest
and
standing leader in I think, American history.
that makes sense. I worked on the Hill just over 20 years ago. I was counsel for Senator Bob Bennett. And when I was there, Mitch McConnell ran that place with an iron fist. And here we are, 20 years later. He's 81 years old, and he's still running the show.
And a few months ago, he had a fall. And had a little bit of a head injury, but was cleared by his doctors. Consequently, he froze at a public event. I think it's important to note that they were both press conferences that were called by his office. So this wasn't a private setting. They were both in press conference. He froze several weeks ago, but notably also last week.
And it was an awkward it was
30 seconds.
Yeah, they asked him, "Are you going to be running again for re-election?" And it looked for a moment like he was thinking about the answer.
That's right.
And then he kept thinking, and it was, maybe 20 or 30 seconds. And you could see the staff kind of grabbed him by the arm, and it was one of those moments where it was a little bit odd. But here's his response to what happened.
Now, one particular moment of my time back home has received its fair share of attention in the press over the past week. But I assure you, August was a busy and productive month for me and my staff back in the Commonwealth.
Now, so he didn't necessarily address that issue in particular, but it is an issue, obviously, for members of his caucus.
Right.
So,
and let's set up why his particular position and why his person right now is so important. We're in the last, we're headed into the last quarter of the year. And for Congress right now, they're particularly in the House, they're dealing with the question of an attempt at a Biden impeachment process. And then also notably for all of us is the job of Congress right now to pass a dozen or so funding bills in which it keeps the government going. And Mitch McConnell has been a really important player in being bipartisan about the negotiations and sort of keeping the long term in place. And so there's questions about not only has he been the long-term GOP leader, just as a person, he's going to be pivotal to the U.S. Senate, sort of tamping down the hubris and the antics sometimes of the House of Representatives.
He is that proverbial steady hand.
That's right.
And in terms of someone with the institutional knowledge and kind of just knowing how things work, there are few people, probably no one, who knows it quite like he does.
Yes. And so, an interesting note, I think one of the reasons we wanted to talk about this today, Derek, is we did have a member of our U.S. delegation weigh in. Senator Mitt Romney is standing behind Mitch McConnell as the Republican leader in the Senate. Here's what he had to say today.
The reality is that we may expect that Mitch McConnell will check out for 20 seconds a day, but the other 86,380 seconds in the day, he does a pretty darn good job.
So
it's a great quote.
It is. He clearly did the math in advance. He was ready for that. But one of the issues now is we've talked about age a lot, in part because we're going to have two octogenarians as what looks like
Yes.
as the incoming, the candidates for the different parties. And so Nikki Haley, who is the Republican candidate, has actually made term limits one of her issues. And this is a perennial issue. And one of the things I find interesting about term limits, it's also very bipartisan.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you look at, Republicans, Democrats, support is pretty constant across the board. But over the weekend, Nikki Haley made a comment about a new generation of leaders.
I am completely for term limits. I'm completely for mental competency tests for anyone over the age of 75. And I'm not saying that to be disrespectful. Here you have Mitch McConnell, who's done great service to the country. You have Dianne Feinstein, who had a great career. You've got Nancy Pelosi, who's been there a long time. At what point do they get it's time to leave? They need to let a younger generation take over. We want to go and start working for our kids.
Now, I'll just give a shout out to those of us who are of middle-aged. When she says a younger generation, Nikki Haley's 51, so she's sort of firmly in what would say middle-aged, but she has been tenacious about really giving heed to this. It's interesting to note, remember we had our first, end of August, marked the first presidential debate. Nikki Haley was on the stage, and she was largely applauded as doing a really exceptional job at that particular debate. And one of the key points and applause lines that she actually had was speaking out forcefully about term limits.
Exactly. And what's interesting is, the argument for term limits keeps coming up, although the counter is always, well, if their time is done, then let's elect someone else. But the reality is, Maura, you've done a lot of work in campaigns. What percentage of people who are incumbents win?
Right. It's 90. It's an insane amount.
And in Congress, it's even higher than insane. It's like 96% or something.
Right. And the disconnect between the same poll that you say, do you like that this is happening? No. Do you agree with this? No. Do you, you think there's efficiency? No. Do you think you're going to reelect the same people? Yes. Name identification is so important to us as voters. We often go and just go with what's familiar. There is a trust and familiarity over even base knowledge of what that means. There's also that same dynamic in the body where we're so afraid of the chaos that might come. Are we propping up people who have given us great service? No disrespect to the service given, but are we keeping them in place for fear that the change will be worse? But the problem is then you get no fresh ideas and no change.
And also, are we propping them up because of the seniority that it gives us? When I worked in D.C., I remember there was Senators Murkowski and Stevens of Alaska.
Yes.
They had been there, I think, since Alaska
was
formed.
Yes.
And the two of them, it seemed like they kind of ran the Senate.
Particularly in the Senate.
It was
absolute power in the
there.
Senate is seniority. And that's a fact. That's not quite true in the House, but the Senate, no doubt about it, is all based on seniority.
Exactly. So it will be interesting to see kind of where this goes. Now, stay with us. We are next going to be talking about a really interesting number, and that is why Utah's households have more debt than any other state. So stay with us.
Well, that was
BYU did not move the ball.
Underwhelming.
The Cougs will punt it away.
This week, the Cougars try to pick up the pace against Southern Utah. Listen for our extended pregame coverage Saturday starting at 9 and kickoff at 1 on Utah's legacy home for the Cougars, KSL News Radio.
Summer's coming to an end. Kids are going back to school, and it's time to get caught up on all those household chores you let fall by the wayside. Lucky for you, today and tomorrow, Zero Res is opening up their $25 special. Schedule your carpet cleaning today and you'll pay just $25 per room. If you're excited for cooler weather and cozy nights indoors, imagine how much better it will be coming home to a clean and residue-free home. The Zero Res cleaning process has been proven to remove more dirt, dust, and allergens than the other guys. Plus, the no residue cleaning means your carpets will stay cleaner longer. That's value. Today and tomorrow only, schedule your Zero Res carpet cleaning and pay just $25 per room cleaned. 4-room minimum, but there are no maximums. Carpet cleaning for just $25 per room. Only at Zero Res Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning. Schedule today and save some money while you're at it. Sale ends on Thursday. Nephi to Ogden, everyone can schedule online at zerores.com.
Good afternoon, everybody. Amanda Dixon here, broadcasting live from the brand new Bedrock Quartz location in Murray at 1276 Vine Street. Scott Nichols is with me. Scott, this store is just beautiful. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. We are so thrilled to be here.
And to have everybody stop by. I've got a food truck out front, so we're partying here. But I want people to know that you don't have to live with that awful kitchen or that awful bathroom one more day. You just come to Bedrock Quartz and take a look.
Absolutely. We'll have every option that you could possibly consider here, and we'll be able to guide you through the whole process with one of our professional consultants to get your job updated.
I have never seen so many shades of white in my life. That is like 20 different kinds of,
I know.
Because there's quartz and then there's marble and then there's, everything else.
And then granites and all sorts of, we got porcelain products too.
And the backsplashes, that's a whole separate thing. But I don't want people to feel overwhelmed because there's like 5 stations. You walk station by station through the process.
Yeah, hopefully we make it really easy to come through, check out what options might work for you, and then we'll guide you through the whole process and make it really stress-free.
I really want people to come today because you're giving away $5,000 in products. Tell me about that.
Yes, we are. $5,000 in new countertops or tile work, anything that Bedrock Quartz does sinks. Come on down, enter to win $5,000 all month long, and you can enter up until the last day of September.
Only at this store or at all the stores?
Got to come to this store.
Come
in Murray.
to our brand new store in Murray. It's Bedrock Quartz, 1276 Vine Street.
It's me again, and of course, I'm at the annual Fall Extravaganza at J&J Garden Center in Layton. And what a great time to buy. Right now, all containerized trees, all shrubs, and all perennials are 20% off. You heard me right. J&J's entire inventory of containerized trees, shrubs, and perennials are 20% off their regular price. J&J Garden Center definitely has the best products at the best price and most definitely the best service too. But don't take my word for it. Come experience J&J Garden Center for yourself. Take advantage of their incredible fall tree, shrub, and perennial extravaganza. Take the Layton Parkway exit, Main Street to Gentile, then west 2 miles. You've got to see it to believe it. You really do.
Country grown to your home, J&J Garden Center.
Visit Serenoni Luxury Blanket Warehouse Sale, Wednesday, September 6th at Orion Event Center in Linden. Save on the world's softest blankets for babies to adults. Get huge discounts on the best gifts ever.
Join KSL and be part of the movement that's creating a culture that's smart about mental health. Come to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention's Out of the Darkness Walk. Join us Saturday morning, September 9th at Veterans Memorial Park in West Jordan as we walk to fight suicide. Funds raised support research, education, advocacy in support of those affected by suicide. Together we can save lives. Join us as we walk out of the darkness together.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, the Coalition of Environmental Groups has filed a lawsuit that seeks to set a minimum level for the Great Salt Lake. That's something the legislature refused to do in its last session. Second, a county clerk says voters need to pay attention to the other races on the ballot in this primary election. And third, immigration is one issue that could hold up agreement on a compromise spending plan in Congress. Right now, 82 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Get deeper insights on the news from Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. Today you have Maura Carabello and Derek Brown. We're filling in for Boyd Matheson and providing a broader perspective and maybe some insight into issues that we hear about all the time. And Derek, this morning we both read this report that I have to say kind of surprised me. I'm really excited to get into it a little bit more. It's a report from the Cultural Currents Institute, which finds that Utah households are the most indebted in the nation. I mean, I kind of was surprised by this.
Yeah, you would expect that in other states.
Yeah.
Not Utah. And this has got to be a fairly new phenomenon.
Right.
I mean, of the last couple of years, because this was not, Utah has never been one of those states.
Right. And one of the things I want to do before we jump in with our guest is I want to tell you who the Cultural Currents Institute used as sources. Because one of the habits I think we should all have is that when we read studies, we should make sure we know what information they draw from, right? You see those raking lists, and sometimes it's like, not very good source material. But this institute used the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, Forbes, and the Pew Center, both of which are good sources. So I think it's a trustworthy number. But, it's worth looking under the hood a little bit and say, let's talk a little bit about maybe where the debt's coming from, if it's good or if it's bad. And to help us break down this headline, which we said Utah households are the most indebted in the nation, we have Shane Stewart here with us today. He is a financial planner for DMBA, and we appreciate you joining us on Inside Sources.
Thanks. Nice to be with you.
Okay, so what do you make of this? I'm going to give you what they're citing here in this CCI study. It says the average Beehive State household owes 138% of the state's annual salary. So if you look at our annual salary, it's about just over $57,000, which means most Utahns are holding an average debt of almost $80,000.
Yeah, like you, my first initial response was surprise, thinking, well, wait a minute, we hold ourselves out as Utahns as very fiscally conservative and taking care of things. As I delved into that a little deeper, I think a couple of things that are causing that is one is average age of a Utahn is lower than anywhere else in the country, and when you're younger, and I think our average age is around 31 years old. When you're younger, you are taking on a bit more debt to get established, things like a mortgage or education or a car or something like that. So that could be a contributor to that in causing us to be higher in debt-to-income ratio.
So it might just be at a moment in time. We're too young to have paid off our debt yet.
Right, that could be a contributor as well. The other factor that the study points to as well is that many Utahns believe in home ownership. There aren't as many renters as there are homeowners, whereas in other states in the country, take New York as an example, not a lot of homeowners, many people renting. And so that can skew the numbers as well when it comes to a mortgage debt or something like that.
So, Shane, do you think this is a relatively new phenomenon? And if we had looked at these numbers, say, 3 or 4 years ago, we wouldn't see this? Because as I look at these numbers, I can't help but wonder if the fact that home prices have gone from fairly affordable as a state to completely unaffordable in just, 48 months? I mean, just in the last couple of years. I mean, is that really what's going on here? Because, it says that an average salary of $57,000. That's an average salary, which, so you're a financial planner. If someone's making $57,000, what kind of a home could they qualify for? Like what price?
Yeah, Derek, I think you hit it right on the head. This is a recently new phenomenon, and it's because of the cost of homes. And it's blown all my rules of thumb out of the water. As an example, I would tell someone in the past, if you make $50,000 a year, you should probably be looking for a mortgage that's somewhere around $150,000 to $200,000. Well, good luck trying to find a place to live.
Yeah, it doesn't exist
anywhere. Yeah, for that amount. And so, in order to qualify for homes, which Utahns hold as a high priority, they're having to take on mortgages that are higher than someone like myself usually recommend. And so, Derek, you hit it right on the head. It's that increase, a significant, fast increase in the value of homes and getting into them that has probably done this for Utahns. I suspect if we took mortgages out of this equation, Utahns are probably much better off and probably even leading the nation in not being in too much debt other than the mortgage.
So, Shane, let's take us through the kinds of debt. I want to stay on that subject for a second, like good debt, bad debt. I'm digging a little into this study, and it says that we're number 7 for auto loan. We're not in the top 10 for credit card debt. Good for us. And we're number 5 for mortgage debt. So just take us through the big ones. Credit cards, cars, and mortgages. Are any of those better debt to have, or should we just always have no debt? Take us through kinds of debt.
Yeah, let's start with the automobile debt as an example. That's another one that, as you identified with mortgages and houses, is one that has taken off. It's very difficult in the past 3 or 4 years to find a good, even used car for a reasonable price. And there are a lot of contributing factors to that: supply of automobiles, supply of chips for the cars, that kind of thing. And so the cost of an automobile has become a little more outrageous recently, and that's affecting it as well. Whenever I talk to, and then the more obvious ones that you should avoid all the time or minimize or get rid of, there's things like consumer debt and or credit card debt. And I'm glad to hear that Utah's better off in those areas. The thing that I do when I talk to a group, as an example, I will say, what's an acceptable debt? And then I just let them talk, and I wait to see how far we'll go. But usually people start with, well, a mortgage. Okay, mortgage, and that makes sense because there aren't many people in the world who just have that kind of money lying around. They're going to need the help. But then sometimes it's a car, sometimes it's education. Those are the top three that I usually hear. It's mortgage, education, car, sometimes medical expense. But if you go any lower than that, then you're really getting into subjective things. You're getting into things that probably don't need to be encountered with debt, but if I let the crowd go, they'll keep adding things. So my point is that you can start with the basics of a mortgage, but then it's easy to talk yourself into, well, I need a car, so I better go into debt for that. Well, I need education, I need to go into debt for that. By themselves, none of those are necessarily evil, if you will, but it can add up. And so my point is, those top three, when it comes to mortgage, when it comes to car, and when it comes to education, I think they are important, and maybe even you could consider going into debt for them. But my point would be careful and be prudent on how much debt you actually take in spending on those three things.
Great pointers from Shane Stewart, who is a financial planner for DMBA. Shane, thanks for joining us tonight.
You're welcome.
I should say today. I've already in the afternoon.
Yeah, it is in the afternoon.
There you go.
Well, and the other interesting thing about that underscores this whole discussion is the interest rates.
That's right.
Even if you can afford a home.
Yeah.
I mean, at the mid sevens right now, can you really afford it?
We've got to get a handle on our housing. Hey, stay tuned with us. Top of the hour, we are fortunate to have Celeste Malloy, who is leading the special election for the replacement of Chris Stewart in our 2nd Congressional District. So make sure you stay with Inside Sources for the top of the hour.
KSL FM Midvale, KSL Salt Lake City. Listen on the KSL News Radio app and in your car at 102.7 FM. KSL News Radio, your all-day companion for news.
It's 2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. In the race to replace Congressman Chris Stewart, can former state legislator Becky Edwards make up the votes that she's currently trailing? Well, KSL News Radio's Lindsay Aerts reports right now it's looking kind of bleak for Edwards.
She is not polling well enough in the urban counties of Salt Lake and Davis to be able to make up the votes that Celeste Malloy is pulling from rural Utah and specifically Washington County. So I know we're not going to get any Salt Lake County results today. So that means when the dump comes, it will likely boost the lead of Celeste Malloy.
We could learn more results and the number of ballots left to count around 5 o'clock this afternoon. 2 people died in a crash in Iron County last night. The Highway Patrol says a van clipped a piece of farm equipment and crashed into a pickup truck coming the opposite direction on Highway 130 in Enoch. The van rolled. Its 2 occupants were killed. Their names have not been released. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Health experts everywhere worried about a possible triple pandemic as cases of RSV, the flu, and COVID are on the rise. Dr. Gib Maura with the Kitsap County Health Department in Washington is advising people to get vaccinated as soon as they can.
Next week, in all likelihood, the COVID shots are going to be approved by the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices. And so those vaccines should be coming available, as will RSV shots and flu shots.
The shot for RSV is new, primarily for people over 60, those who are pregnant, and very young children. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average down 197 points as we near the close of trading here. The NASDAQ is down 148 points right now. And our KSL weather, we've got sunshine through the rest of the week. That's next. KSL News Time, 2:02.
We have enough people running around Broadcast House at 4 in the morning to field a football team.
Producers, reporters, the traffic team, and us.
This is Tim and Amanda.
Join us each morning from 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
Imagine how inconvenient your life would be without power. No lights, no refrigeration, no heating or cooling, and no electronics. But with a Generac home standby generator, you'll have the power when you need it most. Generac generators automatically provide backup after sensing a power outage, so your life goes on uninterrupted. Schedule a free quote today with Genco Generators, your premier Generac service dealer in Utah. Call 801-295-0872 or online at gencogenerators.net.
September means it's time for Any Hour Services free furnace sale. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and as summer comes to a close and falls right around the corner, the weather gets, well, perfect. And when the weather's perfect, people need a little extra incentive to replace their heating and cooling system. That's where Any Hour Services free furnace sale comes in. For the month of September, when you have Any Hour Services install a new air conditioner, we'll give you a new furnace for just the cost to install it. About $400. The furnace is free, you just pay the labor. And there's no catch. There's no raising the price on the air conditioner first. There's no making you buy the most expensive air conditioner to qualify. There's none of that. There's just a desire to keep our technicians working while the weather's mild and a genuine appreciation of you for helping us keep them busy. So if you've been thinking about replacing your old furnace and air conditioner and want to know exactly how much you can save during our free furnace sale, call Any Hour Services today and schedule a free estimate. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Happy 62nd birthday, Granddad.
Thanks, sweetheart.
I got you this.
A mug. Oh, thank you. What does it say? Beware. If you are 60 or older, you may be at increased risk of hospitalization from RSV, respiratory syncytial virus, compared to adults younger than 60.
Not all dangers come with warning labels. Talk to your pharmacist or doctor about getting vaccinated against RSV today. Learn more at bewareofrsv.com. Brought to you by Pfizer.
Advanced Window Products. From their factory to your front door in 8 weeks. Affordable windows guaranteed. 801-850-9100 or advancedwindowsusa.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Granite Credit Union's new Dividend Plus checking account. Here's Ricky Meese.
One small accident in Utah County. This is southbound I-15 at Pioneer Crossing, American Fork. Both vehicles are out of traffic over to the right shoulder. It's a delay-free drive on all the Valley freeways. Experience over 80 original art pieces from prominent local to emerging artists amidst a backdrop of natural beauty. Art at the Park, September 8th and 9th at This Is the Place Heritage Park. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
And our KSL weather, warm and dry through the rest of the week. Today's high 86, up to 89 Friday and Saturday. And right now, we're at 82 degrees with sunny skies at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com, your all-day companion for news.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. Filling in for Boyd Matheson, this is Derek Brown here with Maura Carabello, and we're talking about a special election that took place yesterday. We don't necessarily have we have most of the results, I think, for a lot of the municipal races, but for the kind of the marquee race that everyone was following was the 2nd Congressional District involving Becky Edwards, Bruce Huff, and Celeste Malloy. And the final results are still being counted in this race. Celeste Malloy leads with 38% to Becky Edwards with roughly 36%. And if you were with us here during the last hour, we spoke with Becky Edwards about her thoughts, feelings surrounding the race. And now we have the opportunity to talk with Celeste Malloy, who's currently in the leading position in this race. So Celeste is joining us over the phone from Delta, Utah. So Celeste, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for inviting me to be on.
And I have to ask,
you can hear me well.
We can hear you.
Yeah.
And tell us, why Delta? What's going on in Delta?
I'm on a dairy tour today. Some of the members of the Salt Lake County Council are doing a dairy tour in Utah, and then they're touring a yogurt facility tomorrow in Salt Lake and exploring the connection between agriculture in rural Utah and manufacturing on the Wasatch Front.
Interesting. Okay, so tell us a little bit about the race. Now, we don't yet have results. Currently, you are in what looks like a really good position from a numbers standpoint, and we've kind of been crunching numbers over here at KSL Studio, trying to figure out, what the likely outcome is. But before we sort of walk through those numbers with you, why don't you give us your take on where things are and what we can expect?
You probably know more about that than I do. I was at an election party until late last night, got up early this morning and got on the road. I haven't had time to crunch any numbers. I'm just watching them come in. It just feels good to not be out trying to get people to vote for me today.
Yeah, it's a tough job to ask for someone's vote for sure. So I want to ask you about what you experienced in the district. What we know is it's, 13 counties. It expands the whole left side of the state. And much has been said from convention to the election. The Republican Party has had quite a robust conversation about representative voices. Like, should we have a representative that knows the rural areas, the urban areas? Probably everyone would say a little bit of both. But are you finding a rural-urban divide when it came to the issues that people were talking to you about? And do you feel like Southern Utah and, the Wasatch Front, are they in sync? Or if you became the member of Congress, would you have to blend those interests?
There's a lot of talk about rural-urban divide, but having campaigned in all of the places, I think it's more talk than reality. As I was out campaigning, people in West Valley and people in Piute County and people in Washington County all want to talk about spending, inflation, and government overreach. The details of why they're concerned about it might be a little different, but everybody's concerned about the same things. They all want the same results out of representation, even if they come at it from different angles. So I think it's a good thing to have some diversity of geography in the delegation, but I don't think there's a divide between what urban Utah needs and what rural Utah needs. There may be a difference in how we talk about it.
So for those of you that just joined us, we have Celeste Malloy, who is currently leading in the 2nd Congressional District. And Celeste, there's a lot of debate here at KSL Studio about the different strategies. And it looked like one of your strategies, obviously, was to spend time in some of those more rural areas. I saw that, you were in a parade in Panguitch and then in Peach Days, which was, remind me where that was.
Hurricane.
Okay, Peach Days. And the question was, from a strategy standpoint, is that going to pay off in the numbers game? And looking at the returns, at least I'm looking at the returns as reported by the New York Times. It looks like, in Washington County, you had 44% of the vote compared to Becky Edwards' 22%. And so it looks like that strategy paid off. But was that the actual strategy, or what was the thought process behind, you spending time in, say, Panguitch, Utah, knowing that there were only potentially a couple hundred voters that would be voting, as opposed to, your opponents who spent a lot of time in, say, Davis or Salt Lake counties?
Yeah, there was some strategy to it. There was a lot of learning as I went. This is my first campaign. And with this short timeline, we weren't just building the plane while we were flying it. We were sort of flying and then building the plane. But early on, looking at the numbers, Becky Edwards has been a state legislator, and she ran for Senate, and we knew that she had a natural base already, and her base was probably the strongest in Salt Lake and Davis counties. So I did as much work as I could, but I knew I was going to need to put together all the votes I could from Tooele South. And we did make a decision to try to, build as big of a voting block as we could from Tooele South. The rural counties are my natural base. I've done a lot of natural resources work, a lot of public lands work. I've spent a lot of time in those counties. I know the elected officials really well. So it was the area where I could get the most traction the quickest. And then, of course, Washington County, I was a deputy county attorney there. I was in county party leadership there. And so I knew I had some good connections there, some good allies there that would help. So, yes, it was a strategy. I guess that was a really long answer for yes.
So looking at the numbers we see coming in, and I'm sure your team has been looking at these as well, do you feel like if you keep performing and the votes come in loosely as they are now, do you think you can hold your position as the leader?
I think so. I mean, I don't really know any more than anybody else does about the outstanding votes and what they're going to look like, but I'm hopeful. I feel optimistic about it.
So here's a question for you that we also asked Becky Edwards recently, and when she was on in the last hour, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. And that is, assuming you win, and based on what we're seeing now, that's kind of where those of us who are betting on it are betting that you are in fact going to win. And if that's the case, what is at the top of your to-do list when you arrive in Washington?
Well, I've said from the beginning, one of the reasons I'm the best person for this job is because I worked with Congressman Stewart, and I know what priorities the district has already brought to their congressman and said, these are the things we need you to do. So my first order of business will be picking all of those things back up and make sure they're still moving. Check in with the right committees, check in with where these projects and these funding things are, and make sure that this district doesn't have much of a gap in representation.
And what are some of those things that, as you talk to people out in, you mentioned there was a lot of similarities, whether you were in, at Peach Days or Panguitch. What are the top of those, what's the top of those lists in terms of the to-dos when you get to D.C.?
As far as projects go, we had more than 40 projects in the pipeline for local communities where they were getting federal grants or federal funding of some sort. And they're very similar all the way up and down. Transportation projects, water infrastructure projects, roads, pipes, that kind of thing that local communities need federal funding and federal permitting for. And I had a lot of those that I was working on that I'm going to make sure keep going. And they're in Farmington and Centerville and Marysville and Lyman, all up and down the state.
Fantastic. Well, best of luck to you, and for your sake, I hope that that we know the final outcome sooner rather than later. Let's put it that way. I know that a couple of years ago when I served as the state party chair, it took about 2 weeks for us to get our final results, and those were 2 very painful, sleepless weeks for all the candidates involved. And so for your sake, hopefully that's not the case, and we wish you all the best in the weeks ahead.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. That's Celeste Malloy, who's running to be Utah's next Congresswoman representing the 2nd District. So coming up, Utah had a record winter last year, and as we enter the end of the summer season, how does Utah's water situation look today? Find out next.
First came the vote.
I'm not a big fan of the mail-in votes. I like the in-person ID votes.
We had a candidate we wanted to vote for, and so we voted.
And then the waiting. And more waiting. When the last ballots are finally counted, we'll have a new 2nd District representative. When the votes come in, we'll put them on. Listen to KSL all this week for updates. We have you covered.
I think we had some pretty good choices, actually, so I won't complain.
On KSL News Radio.
Good afternoon, everybody. Amanda Dixon broadcasting live today from the grand opening of the brand new Bedrock Quartz store here in Murray at 1276 Vine Street. And Scott Nichols is with me. Scott, I know that some people, they thought they were going to move, but then the thought of getting a new mortgage and their payment being twice as much, that's just not attractive to them. So my suggestion is redo your kitchen or your bathroom.
100%.
Or your entryway.
Yeah, fall in love with your own home again. And here at Bedrock Quartz, you can find a solution that fits your budget and your aesthetic.
I want to talk about that because I think some people might think I can't afford this. But you have, literally, when you walk in, folks, you'll see dozens of choices and all different price ranges.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have 100 different countertop options in stock that we sell by the square foot, so you don't have to worry about buying a whole slab of material.
That's important.
It can save you 20 or 30%. We really can.
Wow. So for people listening who want to begin the process, where do they start? Do they go online? Do they just come in?
Sure. You can begin your research online at www.bedrockquartz.com, or you can just come into the local showroom, and we're happy to help walk you through all of the options and price points and different directions that you could go.
Yeah, if they come in here, they can enter to win that $5,000.
That could make it a lot easier, right, to have a $5,000 credit towards whatever you want to do in your kitchen. So.
$5,000 in Bedrock Quartz products. And you just come in to enter to win here and see us in Murray, 1276 Vine Street, Bedrock Quartz.
Summer's coming to an end. Kids are going back to school, and it's time to get caught up on all those household chores you let fall by the wayside. Lucky for you, today and tomorrow, Zero Res is opening up their $25 special. Schedule your carpet cleaning today, and you'll pay just $25 per room. If you're excited for cooler weather and cozy nights indoors, imagine how much better it will be coming home to a clean and residue-free home. The Zero Res cleaning process has been proven to remove more dirt, dust, and allergens than the other guys. Plus, the no residue cleaning means your carpets will stay cleaner longer. That's value. Today and tomorrow only, schedule your Zero Res carpet cleaning and pay just $25 per room cleaned. 4-room minimum, but there are no maximums. Carpet cleaning for just $25 per room. Only at Zero Res Carpet and Air Ducts Cleaning. Schedule today and save some money while you're at it. Sale ends on Thursday. Nephi to Ogden, everyone can schedule online at zerores.com.
Hey guys, Alex and Scott for Alpine Home Medical. You've heard us talking about and singing the praises of Alpine Home Medical for years, because if you're talking about getting home medical supplies, these are the folks who are going to do it for you at the best price. They're local. They know how to treat their customers. Scott, we've had a lot of experiences with the folks at Alpine Home Medical over the years.
And they really do know how to treat you, because it can be a scary thing. You go online, you don't know what to get. You're not sure about things. You walk in the store and they're going to take care of you from the minute you get there. You're going to sit down with a professional. They're going to work through your insurance. They're going to get you the right supplies for yourself. I have a CPAP machine. I've been in, I've done this, and they're incredible, but it's not just when you're in the store, it's after you leave. They're going to take care of you, call, make sure everything's just right. These medical devices are important, and you want to feel safe, and you want to feel secure, and you want to feel you got the right thing to take care of yourself.
It's everything, too. The power scooters, the CPAP machines, any home medical supplies, they're going to be able to take care of you. And they've got great news. Brand new store in Tooele. They've been trying to expand to Tooele for years, and then here they are now. Go to alpinehomemedical.com to find a location near you. We're excited to see you out there in Tooele, folks. alpinehomemedical.com.
This just in. With the huge response we received from our Labor Day sale, we've decided to hold it over a few more days. So don't miss out on the biggest hot tub and swim spa Labor Day sale at Backyards of America and Hot Tub Factory Outlet. Save $6,000 MSRP on 10 of our select Sundance model hot tubs and save a whopping $8,000 MSRP on our swim spas too. Buy local and experience what a local in-house service technician can do for you. We make it easy for you to own a Sundance hot tub or swim spa. In Sandy at Backyards of America and in Draper at Hot Tub Factory Outlet. Don't buy from others until you see our pricing. Check out our biggest swim spa supercenter in the state with 8 in-stock models ready for delivery. Get $6,000 off our select Sundance model hot tubs and $8,000 off our swim spas. MSRP while supplies last. Because when they're gone, they're gone. Hot Tub Factory Outlet in Draper next to Cowabunga Bay and Backyards of America in Sandy.
Join Mike Stevens of Capital Wealth Advisors for Retire Right Radio, Saturdays at 5 a.m. and 9 p.m. That's Retire Right Radio with Mike Stevens, Saturdays at 5 a.m. and 9 p.m.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bonas. First, we're expecting additional vote totals this afternoon in the 2nd Congressional District primary, with Celeste Malloy holding a slim lead over Becky Edwards. Second, 2 people were killed in a head-on crash in Iron County last night. Third, people are planning for their yearly flu shots, but they might want to think about a couple of other shots as well. Right now, 82 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Hear elevated conversation on crucial issues. Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. You have Maura Carabello and Derek Brown here today, filling in for Boyd Matheson. Derek, something that came out of our legislative session, we have been talking for the last, a long time, but certainly in the last couple of years, water. We had an epic drought. We're still in the middle of an epic drought, but we had an unseasonably wet and long winter, which gave us a slight bit of reprieve. But during the course of that, the Republicans in both the House and Senate, and I think supported by the Democrats, really focused on water policy and put some resources in from secondary metering to our friends mostly in northern Utah, but really put a lot of energy into it. And one of the things that we saw coming out of the last legislative session was a new organization. And this is an organization that is called a government nonprofit. So it's in the nonprofit. If you donate to them, I think you get a tax write-off. It's a little bit like UCare. And they called this organization, and this was the Speaker of the House and the Senate President, and then our Governor, Spencer Cox. And they created this new entity called Utah Waterways. And they propped it up. They gave it some money. And the reason we're talking about it today is just in the last handful of days, they have appointed their new executive director, their leader. And this is a man known to both of us. He formerly ran Weber Basin Water Conservancy District. So Tage Flint has just been named by, again, the governor and the House and Senate as the new executive director of Utah Waterways. And Tage, thanks for joining us on Inside Sources.
Hi, Maura. Nice to be with you.
Okay, start from the basics. What is Utah Waterways? What's your focus? What are you planning?
Right. So it's brand new, as you just described, and it's a nonprofit that's going to focus its entire time, energy, and resources on forwarding the concept of water conservation in its many forms in the state of Utah. It's a first of its kind, and it's unique in that the opportunity now exists for the private sector, the governmental sectors, and private citizen to be able to participate in the same dialogue and come up with statewide solutions on water conservation. So really
Tage,
excited about it.
What resources, Tage, do you have that are going to help you out here? I'm assuming that, when the legislature creates organizations like this, they obviously will do some funding, and you've got, I'm assuming, private organizations, but what resources do you have at your fingertips here to do this?
Right. So you're spot on. The allocations or appropriations of money, from the state legislature is key to this effort, especially in the first years. That has been authorized with some one-time funding to stand the organization up, and then some ongoing funds to help operations going forward on an annual basis. And then we already have half a dozen corporate sponsors who want to participate financially as well. In about a month, we'll be rolling out their names and their intentions to work with us in a partnership to go across all sectors of the society.
So when I hear water conservation, I think of government entities, but I also do think of households. Like I feel like I've heard, rip your strip, replace with low water plants and things like that. So I have a two-part question. One is this organization going to talk to sort of Derek and I? Is this about the residents and maybe, home builders? And second, I want to know, when you look, you've been in the water industry forever. Can conservation help move the needle? Like are our efforts, when I turn off my tap while I brush, does it make a difference?
Right. So to your first question, the intent here is to try to be a clearinghouse, if you will, for lack of a better term, of water conservation topics all the way from industrial use, residential use, to agricultural use in the state of Utah. So it's a big, wide aperture here that we're going to want to address. And it will take some time to get, a ways down that path with each one of those topics. And yes, the needle has been moved, and it needs to be moved more on water conservation. And let me give you an example. We ought not discount what Utahns have done in the last 20 years. Since the year 2000, we have had a substantial reduction, probably around 25% of our per capita usage in water, and everyone should take credit for that has participated in it across the state. But now we're looking to try to move that needle even more so. And one of the topics that we'll talk a lot about is an ethic, if you will, instilled by our residents that we're going to save water long term and each day, regardless of the weather. So if we had a drought, like you mentioned last year, we had a very wet year this year. Instead of us trying to adjust our water use by the year, we'll want to install water conservation ethic throughout every day of every year. And inherently, that's going to save more water for our reservoirs. It's going to save a lot more water for our ecosystems. See the Great Salt Lake for the biggest example of what would benefit as we continue to do that. No, by the way, we're going to double in population again in the next 40 to 50 years. We need to address that at the same time.
So on that note, I've always heard that the real limiting factor in terms of Utah's growth fundamentally is just about water. And you've had a long career in water management. In fact, your name is sort of, in my work in the legislature, your name was synonymous with water and water management and understanding those issues. But we've obviously done things recently that we may not have done in the past. I mean, what are you seeing legislators or elected officials doing now that they weren't doing when you first started your career in the water management arena?
Right, it's a really good question. I think this is a pivotal moment in time for us in the water discussion. Water conservancy districts and other water entities across the state have always been worried about conserving all they could and making sure that there's enough water to fuel the economy and make sure that our population has enough water. We know that it's a finite resource, so we're not creating more of it. It's just how we move it around and how we use it. And so this is a pivotal moment because I think this effort will bring in a lot more players, say the homeowner, the home builder, and what kind of yards we put in before we even start with the residential use, how we apply water agriculturally, how we think about water in terms of our daily use. All those kinds of things have been talked about and applied, but maybe not in concert with each other as much as we aim to do over the next few years.
So, Tej, I have a off the wall question here. I think you have a new organization, and I think something we don't consider very much is, and I have done this before with state agencies, how tough it is to put together a new organization. So what are you focused on right now? Are you trying to get some digs to sit in? How long will it take you to prop up this organization, and when will the public first start hearing from Utah Waterways?
Right. I think that's a question from somebody that's started her own business before. It's going to take some work, and I've been cautioning all that will talk about it that we need some time to stand the organization up. We needed time to have a dialogue with our key players, and that list of key players is so much bigger, like we just talked about, than it used to be. And then we want to make comprehensive and intelligible plans on how we move the needle again going forward. That will include more discussion with our lawmakers to be sure that state law follows what we think is the best strategy going forward. And so. All that to say that you can expect a lot of internal discussions over the next 3-4 months, and then really watch for how we lay out a strategic plan in the spring.
All right. We'll look forward to it. Tej Flint is the new Executive Director of Utah Waterways. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up, it's Suicide Prevention Month. This issue is more important than ever. Stay tuned as we dive into that conversation.
It's 2:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top local story this hour. A new lawsuit alleges the Great Salt Lake is shrinking so fast, in part because of inaction by state leaders. Dita Seed with the Center for Biological Diversity says they want to see the lake maintain a level of 4,198 feet above sea level, 6 feet above where it currently stands.
Great Salt Lake is on the threshold of ecological collapse, and the consequences of that for human health would be enormous.
A bill that would have set a goal of staying at that same level failed to pass in the legislature this past session. Police spotted a man with a rifle on the balcony of an apartment building in Layton early this morning. That resulted in an hour-long standoff, with police saying he pointed the rifle in several different directions. It ended with officers shooting the man. He was taken to the hospital in serious condition. Residents say crime and domestic violence incidents have become common in their apartment complex. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. A judge in Atlanta has denied separate trials for two of former President Trump's former lawyers in the election interference case there. ABC's Andy Field has more on today's hearing.
An attorney for former Trump lawyer Sidney Powell telling a Fulton County, Georgia judge,
"These are totally separate cases."
The judge disagreeing and refusing to give Powell and lawyer Kenneth Chesbrough separate trials in the Georgia election interference conspiracy charges. Prosecutor Will Wooten saying,
"Whether we have one trial or 19 trials, the evidence is exactly the same."
The judge also skeptical that Georgia can try the president and 18 co-defendants by October. Andy Field, ABC News.
Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average closing trading today down 198 points, and the NASDAQ down 148 points. The S&P 500 was down 31. Our KSL weather is sunny going through the rest of the week. That's next. KSL News Time, 2:32.
Start your days with knowledgeable, friendly voices telling you about the latest news and weather out there.
Hi, this is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
In the business of waking you up each morning from 5 to 9.
On KSL News Radio.
Hello, everybody. It's Amanda Dixon here, broadcasting live from the grand opening of the new Bedrock Quartz store. We're in Murray at 1276 Vine Street with Scott Nichols. Scott, I know some people, they come to you when they want to remodel before they sell their house. Like they want their bathroom to increase the value of their home, or a new kitchen, right?
Right, and it always seems like such a lost opportunity. They fix up their bathroom or their kitchen to be beautiful for sale, and they could have been living with this beautiful bathroom or kitchen for years and years and years. So
do they ever say, "Boy, I like it so much, I'm going to stay now"?
Yeah, that has happened actually. But you know, more often than not, they're preparing for sale. They're already committed, and they've lost out on the opportunity to live with this beautiful new space. We tell them, do not wait. That's a message. Come do this now. It doesn't have to be as expensive as you think it's going to be.
Now, that's the key, I think. I want people to, they think they have to spend, thousands and thousands and thousands. And you can certainly do that, but you don't have to. You can do it relatively inexpensively.
You really can, and it makes such a big difference.
I was shocked at what you could do it for. And it's just choosing which backsplash, which granite or marble or quartz you want, and you walk us through that process.
100%. Yeah, a lot of people are really uncomfortable. They're scared of making a wrong decision.
Yeah, I am.
But we have experts here that can help say, you know what, with this cabinet color, why don't you look at these three different options, and they'll make a huge impact.
Do we bring our measurements to the store, or do you come out and measure?
Either way.
Either way.
Yeah.
See how easy it is? But if you come to this store today, and anytime this month, you can sign up to win the $5,000 in free Bedrock products for your home. We're here at the grand opening of Bedrock Quartz, 1276 Vine Street.
Attention taxpayers, ready for some bad news? With $80 billion in new funding from Congress, the IRS has launched their most aggressive hiring campaign ever to ramp up enforcement. If you're ignoring your taxes, don't delay another minute, because your paycheck, your bank account, even your home or business could already be at risk. Now, here's the good news. Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 tax relief firm, can get to work immediately, helping to protect you from the IRS. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, their tax attorneys and licensed professionals are experts at resolving tax problems. Let them help determine if you qualify for the Fresh Start Initiative or other powerful IRS tax assistance programs. Take control. Call Optima Tax Relief now for a free consultation.
Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Looking for fabulous food, atmosphere, and tradition? Make your reservation at Five All's Restaurant today. The perfect place for a romantic dinner, birthday, or anniversary celebration. You'll love dining at the Five All's.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Granite Credit Union's new Dividend Plus checking account. Here's Ricky Meeks.
We do have a delay-free drive on the freeways, but we also have crashes on the side streets. One is an accident eastbound 3300 South at 3rd West, and then we also have a crash at 4800 West, approximately 4600 South. Join the Utah Symphony for the greatest classical hits from the 1700s to today. Tickets start at just $21. Get yours today at utahsymphony.org. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, warm and dry through the rest of the week. And today's high only about 86, but by Saturday, we're looking at 89 or possibly 90 degrees. 84 degrees and sunny right now at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com, your all-day companion for news.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. This is Derek Brown and Maura Carabello. We're filling in for Boyd Matheson. We've been talking about everything from national politics to our local special election that took place yesterday, and we've had two of the three candidates on the show today and walked through kind of what it is that they are doing and what they anticipate. One of the other things we'd like to focus on here briefly is the fact that September, this month, is Suicide Prevention Month. Suicide and mental health, although they are difficult and heartbreaking topics, they're ones that we need to confront head on. A number of years ago, the legislature here helped spearhead, with the help of our congressional delegation, the 988 number.
Right.
So for anyone who is struggling with that, or anyone you know, the 988 number gets you directly to a trained professional who can help. And one of the groups that really struggles with this issue, particularly mental health, thoughts of suicide, and those sorts of painful issues, is the veteran community. And this is an issue that has touched a lot of lives. And those of you who have veterans in your families or who know veterans, I have a veteran in my family, a brother-in-law who has received a Purple Heart. We know the struggles. I mean, there are struggles and there's sacrifices that they carry, burdens they carry for us. And when they get back here, to home, there are still burdens that they are shouldering, and they're silent burdens. And so we have someone to talk to us a little bit about some of those silent burdens. We've got Corey Pearson, who is the Deputy Director of Veteran Services at the Utah Department of Veterans and Military Affairs. So, Corey, thank you for joining us on Inside Sources.
Hey, Derek and Maura. I'm happy to be here and join you today to talk about this important topic and some different things that are going on across the state that might be able to help veterans, their family members, and service members here in the state of Utah, and some different things we've been working on.
So, Corey, give us a sense of the magnitude of the problem. I mean, I personally love the fact that it's something that we are willing to talk about now. I don't think that in the last couple of decades we talked about it. There may have been a stigma to it, which was the result of, a number of things, and maybe the reason we didn't talk about it. But we now talk about it, and I love that we can sort of bring that out into the open. So tell us, give us a sense of the magnitude of this problem.
Yeah, it's something that, a lot of folks have been working on for many, many years, decades, suicide and suicide prevention within the veteran military community and the civilian community as well. The veteran community, as you talked about, they have some different life experiences that they might have due to combat, due to leaving their family behind for different deployments, certain things that they might see while they're deployed, just everyday things that maybe a normal civilian might not go through those same type of life experiences. And so over time, and thankfully, the discussion has started to what you talked about. People wanted to talk about it. They wanted to have the conversation. It wasn't just this silent thing that no one ever wanted to bring up. And so I think one of the best things that we can do is just let people know, don't be afraid to ask the question. If you see someone that might be struggling, ask them if they're okay. Ask them, if there's something you can do to help them out. It might be as simple as, we used to call them buddy checks in the military. You always were with a buddy wherever you went. You want to know if they needed something. Sometimes you were in supervisor roles or whatever that might be. But you always would check in with each other, equipment-wise, mental health-wise, training-wise, et cetera. And what we would like people to do in Utah is take time to call a friend, someone that has served. Maybe you might not have heard from them for many months or even a year, but just reach out and say, hey, how are you doing? I just wanted to check on you, what's new in your life. And, if someone is struggling, sometimes you'll hear them say, well, I'm doing okay, but, I'm just really struggling and life isn't that good and I'm really depressed. Well, hey, why don't I come over? Let's go get a pizza. Let's go to the park. Let's sit down. Let's talk. Don't be afraid to have conversation and ask the question.
So, Corey, what are some of those warning signs? Give us the I mean, you mentioned a couple of those things, but people often don't say things like I'm struggling or I'm depressed. I mean, what do they say or what do they do? Give us some of the top warning signs for those of us that are, that may be surrounded with individuals and we may not, be recognizing some of these, there may be alarm bells going off and we may not be seeing it. What should we be looking for?
Again, a lot of the conversation of why maybe I'm better off not here or why I'm better off not in this situation. If you hear anything like that, please just have a conversation and refer them to that 988 line that you talked about that went into effect July 16th. Sometimes people will start giving things away, personal items to close family and friends. And some of these items you might not ever expect them to give to family and friends. That might be something that you want to look into and have a conversation with them about. Another thing that we find is a lot of people with suicide ideation and those that actually act out on it, they haven't been connected to healthcare. And so we really want them to connect to the VA healthcare system or healthcare within their community, because we know that if they are seeing a primary care provider and getting services, they're less likely to act on suicide ideation.
So, Corey, take us a little deeper into your office there. Yeah. What kind of efforts, prevention efforts, is your office engaged in?
Absolutely. So the VA, the federal VA, along with the Department of Substance Abuse and Mental Health and the Department of Health and Human Services, sent a letter to Governor Cox in 2021, early 2021, and asked if we would be willing as a state to participate in the Utah Governor's Challenge to prevent suicide. Of course, the governor jumped on that and said, absolutely, we want to be a part of it. We want to get the research. We want to get the information. And we want to come up with plans and strategies here across the state to connect to veterans that might be in crisis or family members or others. And that's why I say service member veterans and family members, we want to let them know what is out there and available. So we compiled a team with the Department of Health and Human Services, the Utah National Guard, the Salt Lake Medical Center, the legislature, Veteran Centers, Medical Examiner's Office, State Board of Education, and many others to come together and come up with strategies. There's a couple strategies that we're focused on. One is we need to identify service members and those that are currently serving. One of the factors is a lot of veterans don't know that they're veterans. They think they have to be deployed. That's not true. So we need to educate people on what it means to be a veteran and what services they are available for. So we have to identify them and help with that. The second one is promote connectedness and improve care transitions for that community as well. So we want to educate other people within the community about the things that veterans and military service members go through as they are serving or when they were serving, to help with that cultural understanding. So then if they have that, then they're able to help other people as they go through these things.
Fantastic. Hey, Corey, we're bumping up against a break, but really quickly, give us where do we go to get information, in terms of your office? Quickly, like what's the website or where's the best contact information?
Absolutely. They can go veterans.utah.gov, and that goes to our webpage, or they can call our phone number at 801-326-2372. But on our webpage, there's a launch page that's Governor's Challenge to Prevent Suicide. There's a resource page there with lots of health resources, mental health resources, community resources, but also it talks about all these different projects we're working on within the state of Utah to help with suicide prevention and prevention. And here in the state. So.
All right, that's veterans.utah.gov. All right, Corey Pearson with the Department of Veterans and Military Affairs. Thanks, Corey. We appreciate you joining us on Inside Sources.
Thank you both. Have a great day.
You too. All right, coming up, we'll give you our analysis and predictions for Utah's special election to replace the 2nd congressional seat. Stay with us.
Spend less time at the post office. With Formax and Mint mailing systems from Les Olson IT, you can quickly, accurately, and easily process your outgoing mail and even save on postage. Fold your documents, stuff and seal your envelopes, print addresses, weigh and measure to apply proper postage, all with the click of a button. With multiple model options available, you're sure to find a Formax solution and Mint mailing device that perfectly fits your business needs.
Les Olson. Matheson IT.
Hi, everybody. Amanda Dixon here, broadcasting live from Bedrock Quartz. It's the brand new store in Murray, 1276 Vine Street. And I'm here with Scott Nichols. Scott, I got here so easy on I-215. I just got off at Fort Union, went north, turned left for a couple blocks, east a block. I mean, it was like a minute from the freeway, 2 minutes from the freeway.
Yeah, super fast. Or up, you can come up from Fashion Place Mall,
come up from
right?
Fashion Place Mall,
yeah.
right. Yeah, we're easy to find here on Vine Street, but you've got locations all over.
We do. So, anywhere in the state of Utah, we've got a place that's convenient for you. So we've got our Layton showroom. We've got West Jordan. We've got Pleasant Grove. We've got Spanish Fork, or even St. George all the way south. And now with the addition of our Murray Vine Street location, we should be close to everybody.
If you don't love your kitchen or love your bathrooms or your entryway even, come and see what Bedrock Quartz can do for you for less money than you think.
That's a fact. Life is too short to hate your kitchen.
Come on. You spend so much time there. And I look at this beautiful marble and quartz, and I just think, oh, my gosh, the shades of black and beige and gray. And I've never seen so many selections, such a big selection.
We'd like to think that we've got something here for you to look at that you're going to feel passionate about. You just need to feel passionate about your home.
Yeah. I want you to come and fix my bathroom, then I'm going in there and closing the door and making everyone stay.
Done and done. Agreed.
Yeah. All right, let me just tell people before we sign off that we are giving away $5,000.
Sure are.
In Bedrock Quartz products. All you have to do is come here and sign up to win. It's Bedrock Quartz in Murray, new store, 1276 Vine Street.
Hey, BYU football fans, come see KSL's own Mitch Harper this Friday, September 8th at Macy's Grocery Store in American Fork, 135 East Main Street from 4 to 7 p.m. for fun, prizes, and chances to win tickets to the BYU Southern Utah football game or a $50 Macy's gift card. You'll have multiple chances to win every hour. And during the broadcast, be sure to visit the Macy's Meat Department and pick up some of their easy meals. They're all cut, seasoned, and prepared for you. Just put them on the grill or in the oven, and you have dinner and a snap. Meals that are perfect for dinner or any tailgate party. So celebrate the football season and join KSL's own Mitch Harper this Friday, September 8th at Macy's Tailgate at American Fork from 4 to 7 p.m. Food, activities for the family, and enter to win tickets to the BYU Southern Utah football game or a $50 Macy's gift card. Macy's. Happy shopping!
Have you Googled yourself lately? Are there negative posts from an ex-employee or from a former client? Maybe an outdated news article or sensitive personal information about your family? Search engines don't always get it right. For right or wrong, it's your reputation on the line. That's where Reputation Defender by Norton comes in. One of the most trusted names in online reputation repair, Reputation Defender has been fixing people's search results for over 15 years. Their cutting-edge approaches help you to wipe away unwanted information in your search results. They also promote the good stuff so that it rises to the top, helping you put your best foot forward. Your good name is too valuable to leave to the whims of a Google algorithm. Take control with Reputation Defender. You can start by getting your free reputation report card at reputationdefender.com or call 800-401-6681 to speak to an expert. That's 800-401-6681.
If it's out of sight, it's out of mind. Even though that's an old adage, it's still very true today. And it's especially true of your old 401k. I'm Jeff Jr. with Trajan Wealth, asking you to get that old 401k in sight and out of the company you no longer work for. But don't roll it into your new 401k. That could be one of the worst things you do. Of course that's easy. But when has the easiest way ever been the best way? Instead, call Trajan Wealth and learn about all of your options, including a way to earn an upfront bonus of up to 25% for your future income just for rolling it over. That's right. You could earn up to a 25% bonus for your retirement income just for rolling that 401k over with Trajan Wealth. Don't roll that 401k into your new company plan. Don't do it without calling Trajan Wealth first. Call 801-899-7600 or visit TrajanWealth.com.
Guarantees are based on the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company.
Any Hour Services free furnace sale is going on right now. If you haven't scheduled your free estimate yet, what are you waiting for? Call Any Hour Services today or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, a lawsuit by environmental groups would do something the legislature refused to do, and that set a minimum level for the Great Salt Lake. Second, Layton police shot and wounded a man who was out on an apartment balcony with a rifle early this morning. And third, some of the 18 people charged along with former President Trump in the election interference case in Georgia tried to split their trials away from his. The judge wouldn't let them. Right now, 84 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Hear elevated conversation on crucial issues. Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. Maura, Carabello, Derek Brown. We've been with you today. And Derek, we've really enjoyed this. I don't know. At the end of the show, I'm going to say let's take a minute to tell our listeners our background. I have a little company called the Exoro Group. We've been around for 22 years doing public policy. You and I are colleagues in the public policy realm.
We are.
Spending some time talking about special elections has been great. Tell us a little bit about, we have day jobs, right?
We do. I'm actually a recovering attorney, as I like to say. I used to litigate and practice in Washington, and we moved to Utah a number of years ago, where I later served in the House of Representatives, and have since served and worked for 2 different U.S. senators. And so, I mean, this is like nirvana. We get to talk about politics,
yes,
and do it as part of what we do for a living. And so it's a lot of fun. And now I do more government affairs, which is kind of all the things I loved about practicing law without any of the things I hated.
There you go.
So it's nirvana for me.
So yesterday marked, as we started the show, it marked a special election. It was a municipal election. And again, I want to give a shout out to anyone who is running for office. Municipal elections are the closest to the people. Therefore, they hold a special place, I think, in our republic democracy, in that there's not much to hide from when you go to school in the same places, you eat, you work, you shop at the same places. So hats off to those who made it through a primary election yesterday with one of the 30-plus races we had at the municipal level. We've been covering a race that is not necessarily more important than the municipal elections, but it does impact more Utahns, and that is a congressional race. We have 4 seats. We're holding a special election in Congressional District 2, which was vacated by Representative Chris Stewart, family health issues. He vacated the seat. We were down to 3 Republicans. Now, the Republicans will choose, or have chosen, we're counting their votes,
they have chosen. We just don't know who they've chosen yet.
Which is what we're going to talk about. And then they will go forth to be in another, I'm going to say special election, because we adjusted the general election timeline to November 21st, which is right before Thanksgiving. And whoever wins the Republican primary will go head-to-head against Kathleen Reeby, who's a current sitting senator for the Democrats in the state Senate, and she's thrown her hat into the ring and is the nominee for the Democrats. So whoever wins will be facing her. But Derek, we've got a few minutes left. You and I have been crunching. Now, recap what we know as of 6 a.m. today. Celeste Malloy is at 38%.
38%.
Sorry, good point. 38%. And Becky Edwards is at 36%. Bruce Huff is in a 3rd position, so I'm going to cheat and say, I think it's safe to say that he is unlikely to be the candidate. It looks like it is head-to-head with Celeste Malloy and Becky Edwards. We've had both candidates on today, and the question we've asked both of them is, hey, is there a rural-urban divide? Both of them answered. I was kind of surprised. No, not in terms of issues. Both of them actually went on to say, no, they're all one part. What the numbers are telling us is there appears to be at least a philosophical divide on who to elect.
Based on that geography.
That's
absolutely.
Right.
And I think both of these candidates knew it going in. I think Celeste said, you know what, I'm from Cedar City. I've spent many years of my life in Washington County. I'm gonna tout that. That's gonna be my shtick. That's gonna be my appeal to a large group of people. And keep in mind, this congressional district has 13 different counties.
That's right.
Which we asked Becky Edwards this specifically. We said, does it kind of complicate your election efforts? Because she's run for the state House of Representatives. She won, served for like a decade.
Davis County.
In Davis County, and that district has maybe 40,000 people, but it's in the, bountiful North Salt Lake area where she's serving, and her people live within a 1 to 2 mile radius. Here, we've got 13 counties she's campaigning
Now,
to.
she also most recently ran against Mike Lee for U.S. Senate.
Exactly.
So she did have a leg up in which she just finished a senatorial run, which would have been obviously statewide. So you and I have both commented she had some apparatus in place. She had people who had just, less than a couple of years ago had walked for her and sent out postcards and all the things you do. So one would have said she had a little bit of a head start from organizing in that she had run a statewide campaign recently.
Yeah, so in a sense, she started at the 40-yard line. I mean, she had that organization in place, and from what I can tell, Celeste was still trying to build that organization even after she'd won at the convention.
Yes.
And what was so interesting, and this is one of the things that fascinates me about politics. I mean, it's always interesting when someone that you sort of expect to win, in fact, wins. Or maybe that's not even interesting at all. What makes this story about Celeste Malloy so interesting is that there were, a dozen people running at the Republican convention.
Some heavy hitters.
Heavy hitters, people like former Speaker of the House, Greg Hughes. I mean, well-known names. And there was nobody I knew who looked at that field of candidates and said, you know who I think is going to win? Celeste Malloy. No one. And then, boom, out of nowhere, she wins.
So you and I off the air started saying she's a bit of an accidental candidate. We don't mean that in a negative way, but sort of she seems to be right place, right time, and clearly she's making a case for herself, and she's lifting to the moment.
Exactly.
So if she is the winner, does that catch up with her ever? Or one question that we're asking ourselves over and over again is there's a 2 percentage point. There's less than 1,400 votes that separate them. Let's say it stays there. Let's say one wins, but one wins by a couple thousand. How secure is that seat for whoever wins?
Well, it depends. I mean, you have Spencer Cox, who won his primary by just a hair as well. And so, I mean, it's the answer is, in theory, somebody else could come back and challenge her. But the reality is, if she's an incumbent and she's a member of Congress and she's running, I think that gives her a tremendous advantage.
So I'm going to be the first to say, if you listen to our last night's coverage, I went in thinking that Becky Edwards has the advantage. I'm not counting either of them out, but if you forced me to pick today, the numbers do look better for Celeste Malloy.